Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Svelte Weekend, the third week. Hope I still, I'm happy to still see some of you. Welcome. Hello. Um, Sierra Lee. Hi. And hello, Victor Marquez. Hello. Welcome to Svelte Weekend. So this is usually like my weekly live stream where I do building stuff with Svelte and Svelte Kit to build a project, and this long project that I think that I want to work across all my Svelte weekend live streams is to build a Google Sheet clone. Okay. Um, I have added all of this on my YouTube, all the past live streams, only two, on my YouTube channel. So it will be a playlist of past live streams, and you can watch them um, if you're interested, right? So let me give you a brief idea what we have done so far. Let's share my screen. Share screen. Hello, Christian San Miguel. Hello from Chile. Wow, hi. So this is what we have done so far. Let me see. Maybe this is a bit bigger. So we have built this is a Svelte, um, a Google Sheet clone using Svelte. And what we have done so far in our first live stream is to bring this layout, and then over the last live stream, what we have done so far is to be able to double click into a cell and to type something, right? something like this. And then we also managed to squeeze in to do formulas. So here you can have equals to 45, then you can equals to I8 minus I9 minus I11, no, I10. And you get 55. Okay. How does it work? Well, you probably have to watch the previous live stream. But a brief walkthrough of what we have in our code is we've created a file. We created um, an array, a matrix of cells called the speed cell. And there we use writable stars and some derived stars to basically figure out um, uh, basically updates the cell. So within the cell, you have a display value as well as the underlying formula. So these two are, each of them are a star, a writable star. Okay, so anyway, we have this right now. So today, what we're gonna do is do some navigation, keyboard navigation. Okay. So for example, right now, if I am selecting on this cell, but I'm trying to click on my arrow keys, left, up, down, left, right. Um, Nothing much except that probably because I'm focused over here, then it scrolls. Um, yeah, if I click on something over here, I kind of able to scroll. So we don't need the scrolling, but what we need is to move this focus, this cell that we're clicking on, to left or right based on what I'm clicking. Right? You probably can't see what I'm clicking right now, but I can assure you I'm hitting my arrow keys right now and it's not moving the cell. Right? So we need to do that. So let's take a look at how we can implement that. Right. So here, back to our code, we have our switch components, and here we have our active cell. This is specifying what is the cell that is currently being active that we are um, um, and that has a column and a row, and then we passed a active props to a cell, telling the cell that you are active by checking whether if the current cell is equals is having the same column and the row with the active cell variables that we have, right? At the same time, if we are clicking on a cell, we are selecting on a cell, then we have to update the active cell to the current cell column and row. So so now let's see. So now we need to have keyboard navigation to update this active cell. One thing I can do is registers event listeners. And where do I register them to? I think I can register them in maybe like the body, because I'm not focusing on any particular uh, particular cell or input or component, right? So I think we can register an event listeners on the body, and then um, yeah, and then we can move our cursor, right? So I can add a svelte body element to listen to event listener. I think should work. Key down. I don't need anything here over here. On key down. So here event. Let's maybe console log and see what we have as the event. So if key down, and then we have an event, maybe the key to find what is the, or maybe just event. I'm not sure whether we have the key. Anyway, so here I can inspect element. Let me open this up, bigger, maybe on the side, right? Okay, I think you can see clearly. Let me zoom in a bit more. Over here in the console, let's clear this. So here, if I hitting my arrow key, you can see I have keyboard events going up and down, left, right. and I can check the variable called the key variable, arrow up, key variable, arrow down, right? So I can use that. I can say, let's see, um, key, right? So I can do whatever we want to do on key events. So here, say for example, if events.key equals to something, arrow up, then we want to move up our active cell. Else if event.key, arrow down, and then else if arrow left, and else if arrow right. Okay, so for some of you, maybe when you see a lot of if, else if, more than, I would say maybe more than twice or thrice, you have this urge to, I don't want to repeat this events key equals something every time. Well, okay, then you could maybe use um, the switch statement instead, right? So switch you can do event a key, and then here switch, and then here you can have different cases, right? So here it kind of the behavior is the same, but it kind of saves a few keystrokes of um, um save a bit space code spaces where you just do like switch for different case, right? In case of arrow up, you do something, arrow down, you do something else. Uh, yeah, I guess makes sense. It's more concise, and it's clean. Yeah, it's more concise, and it's kind of cleaner than all the conditions you are just checking on the events.key. So here, what I want to do is, hold on. Okay, so here what I want to do is, I would say the active cell that when I move up, probably the column is gonna be going up. So active cell is always true. I don't have to do this. Column equal minus break. If I'm moving down, then my column will be, the column number will have to increase. Active cell column plus. If I left, will be moving the, hold on. I think up is moving the row, which row I'm in. Up and down. Left will be going for the column, left or right. See whether it works. Save this. So here I'm focusing on over here, on this cell. I'm trying to press left, right, left, right, left, right, and up and down, right? It works. It works, but you can see that I'm also scrolling because because this over here is scrollable, and I think probably it kind of know that if I'm clicking on this element, I'm like focusing on this element, then when I scroll, yeah, it's a bit, sometimes like when you scroll, it kind of try to scroll this scrolling area as well. Um, that's something we don't want it to be automatically scrolling with us, because sometimes you see when I scroll too fast, it kind of being hidden, and then um, I can't see where my cell is even active in, right? So this is tricky. Let's see how we can do this. One way I guess we could do is event. Let's see. Maybe we can stop the event from propagating. Then maybe it would stop stop what it will do. Maybe like if you stop propagation, then maybe it will not uh, send this scrolling this keyboard event to the other elements so that maybe it does not send it to the so that the maybe the scrolling div does not receive this event, then maybe with that it does not know that it needs to scroll, right? I'm not sure whether this makes sense. Let me try. I think it does not work. I think probably just try and see whether if I do it in capture, right? It does not work. Okay, let's see. Let's Google it. I have no idea how to do this, so let's try and Google this. Right, so prevent scrolling when arrow keys. Okay, I guess a lot of people ask this. So what do you do? Event listeners prevent default, prevent default. Okay, okay. So event.prevent default. I don't even need this. Let's save this. Let's refresh. So here, if I click down, okay, yeah, and that works. Prevents defaults, kind of prevents it from scrolling. But now it presents us a different problem, right? Where is our cell? As long as we move down and down and down, we kind of lost our cell. It's missing. It's gone. It's gone into this side, and unless we scroll with our mouse and find it over here, else uh, it's just gone into Abyss, and we need to fix that, right? So we kind of like tell browser, hey, not scrolling when you move your arrow keys because we want to have our cell in focus. But then after that, we're like, okay, now my cell is gone. Hey, please, we need to figure out a way to scroll. Um, so here, what we can do is maybe figure out where our cell is, and then which cell it is, and then we try to and scroll to a position we such that the cell itself is in view within this view part. Okay, so which means that we need to know as long as we're moving, we need to know which cell, which column, which row we are at actively, and then figure out that maybe um, where is that in position relative to this whole scroll area, and then figure out whether maybe we need to scroll it in such that this cell is visible to user, right? Oh, hello, Robert. Hello. Ooh, hi. Yeah, so this is what we are going to do next, right? We want to make sure that our cell is in view when we are moving here, when we are navigating using the keyboard. Okay, so here let's go back and figure out where we should add that, right? So here we have our cells, and this is the main main scrollable area, right? This is our div that we are. Wait, which one is the one that we can scroll? Cell top bar row header. Yeah, this main is the one that is scrollable, right? Main overflow scroll. So here in this main element, we want to, whenever the active cell is changed, we want to scroll within this. We want to control its scroll position, right? So here, probably I can use maybe some sort of actions, svelte actions. Scroll into view for maybe we pass in the active cell, um, and let it figure it out, right? I guess let's try. Here, function scroll into view, the the container, and then the active cell. So here we can return a update. Oops. New active cell. And then we have destroy. I think I don't really need destroy. I just need to know whenever active cell change, we do something, right? So here we're gonna actual scroll into view with the active cell. If cell, so I'm going to call scroll into view with this active cell, or calling it again when I'm doing updates, right? So actually this is kind of, I could have just said something like scroll into view as well. I think this is all I need to do. Here in active cell, we have this one, the column and the row number of the cell. And then this is the HTML main element or HTML element. It's just generic, right? Let's okay. See, I think I've repeat myself this a few times. So why not make it a type, right? This is how it works usually. Once you start to realize that you are doing something more than, I think twice is still okay, but three times and four times you're like, ah man, I need to make it something. I need to prevent myself from having to write this thing more, even more times, right? Then I start to say, okay, maybe this is the uh, cell, active cell. I don't know. And then this one, right? And then now I can just reuse this and pass it over here like this. Active cell, um, cell. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Now I don't have to rewrite this a few more times. I'm happy, right? Here I think I am passing active cell somewhere else. No, I'm not. Okay, yeah. So um, I can use interface. I could use type as well. I'm not that sure about what's the difference. If you are very familiar with TypeScript, maybe you can tell me. But yeah, uh, I have my active cell type now. Okay, and let's see. Hello, Sheriff. Nice to meet you. Hi, welcome to the stream. Right, so we are working on um, the keyboard navigation, and then now we are trying to figure out how we can scroll our active cell into view, right? Um, so here, probably just check a few things because I'm not sure what we are dealing with and exactly. Maybe I'll just console log the container as well as the active cell and see what are the things that we need to play along to make this works, right? So now every time when we change our active cell, um, we call the main element as well as the active cell, right? Because of this action, every time active cell changes, then you will call the update to update this to console log over here, right? So what we need to do is we need to make sure that this cell that is active scrolls into our view, right? We can see it. So here in our main class, main element, I think we can check a few properties, like say for example, container.scroll, scroll top, scroll left, container scroll width and height. I don't know, maybe something that maybe we are interested in. Scroll into view. Okay, no, I don't know what I need to scroll into view yet. Maybe this is useful. Okay, I mean keep this first. Container dot scroll. So sometimes I can't really know all the um I don't, to be honest, I don't really remember all the property names and all the what does all each of this do. So I mean, having is auto completion, that something like this is useful. I can see container dot and then like, okay, what am I playing with? Maybe something with a scroll, and then like, what is that thing? And figure that out. So this is definitely helpful with able to do some type completion over here. Here, I think I what I would probably would need to do is to update do some calculation to figure out whether with the scroll top and the height, meaning like the scroll top position and like the array that area that I can scroll, and then I figure out whether my current active cell is within that region. And if it's not, then I might want to update my scroll top, or maybe to call this scroll into view, to scroll it into my view. Right. One thing about scroll into view is that I can't control where I'm scrolling into. Right. Just make sure that this cell is in my view. But changing scroll top or left, which is like changing the scroll position, and probably I would able to control maybe that the cell is definitely within like the view. I mean, the cell I can control like how much into the view, or like how much margin from the side that this element is within this whole view. Okay. Probably we can try the two different variations and then we see which one we like, right? So here, and whenever I select something, you can see my scroll position, top, left, right, width. And if I try to scroll a bit, and now you can see my scroll top and left is it's not no longer 0, but my height and width is the same. Unless I try to resize this and I try to change the place, then you see that my scroll width, wait, okay, I think the height and width is irrelevant. Okay, I guess that's because, okay, then I guess this is the total area that I can scroll, right? So it's the it's not the height and width of the element that you see on the screen, but rather like the full inner contents height and width, right? So probably the next thing is the height, is the container dot height or offset, the client height. Width is the width. Save this. Oops. Save this. Let's see. So if I resize a bit, then my width is 550, right? If I go more, then if I rechange, my width is more now, right? So this is actually the actual width that we have in that you can see in the view. Okay. So now next is, where is our active cell, right? We know our active cell is column 8 and 13, but where is it exactly? Yeah, where is it exactly, right? So this really depends on the width and the width and the height of our cell, our column and our row, right? Right now, it's kind of a calculate using min max, some calculation to like minimum 50 pixel and maximum like 1 fractional units of our screen. So it's kind of like, okay, I don't know where is our cell, because I don't really have in control of, I let CSS to decide where how wide and how tall my cell is. So I can't really know. I mean, the value itself is not in like JavaScript. Probably you have to query to measure uh, where my cell actually is right now. Right. So maybe we can just figure out how do we get that cell element, right? This div element. So maybe it's inside this cell. I'm not sure. Let me see whether we store it somewhere. Uh, Definitely we did not store it anywhere. Um, so I guess now it's more of like, how do we get this value out, right? Because here we did not use any bind this, so we are not storing the reference of this cell anywhere within within this, for the cell, for each cell we do not store the reference of the element. So we can't really say, okay, I'm going to find where is this element, and then get the get its like bounding area, where it's the left, where it's tops and stuff like that, right? So we did not do that, so now we probably have to do that to figure it out. That's one way. And second way is maybe we kind of know, if we know each cell, each column's width and height, then we could also use that to do a calculation, right? I'm leaning towards not getting the cell reference to do that for us, partially because in the cell we don't really, partially because in future we probably want to do some column width adjustment where we can say resize our column or resize our rows, right? So actually I just need to store a list of width for each of the column rather than store all the reference of every cell, right? So for example, if you have a 6 by, well, I think this is okay here. If I guess it's obstructed by my logo, Svelte Weekend. If I, yeah, if I store each of the elements, then probably, say for example, if I have 6 columns and maybe 10 rows, then I will store 60 references, 60 cells references, and then find each of the width and height, right? Yeah, I could do that. Or actually, if I'm only store the width and height of the column, because each column, the whole column, the width is the same, or each rows, each every cell, the rows is the same, then I can actually store 6 plus 10 references and figure them out, right? I can, I mean, all the width within the column is the same, all the heights within each row is the same. Then maybe this is just 16 cell element references. Maybe that's we don't have to get everything. We just need 16 of them, right? We don't need 60 of them. Um, of course, it will means more calculation, but I think why I want to go for this approach is that in future I will have, I will probably will have a way to store the width and the height for each columns in JavaScript and control that, because I want to do resizing of our row and heights, right? So we probably also would have stored that array somewhere as well. So now, without storing the array, we will probably just store the reference of each of this column and the row, column and row instance, right? So here, I think what I can do is I can go here for each column. I can bind this to something, and I can do that as maybe, let's see, the element, find this as element. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for the row header as well. Let me just copy elements, and then I would bind this element over here as well. And now here, I can keep track of all the rows and the row headers and column headers, and then row and column headers. I would do, oops, the other way around. Okay, here I would bind the element with, say, maybe column headers to, where is it, column, right? And this is to the row, right? Does it work anytime? Okay, just do the typing. HTML element array. Okay, so now with this, I think let's console that out as well. Console log rows headers and column headers. Oops, where am I? Okay, here. Okay, with that, let's go in and see what do we have. let's clear this. Now row headers is 26 number of each headers elements, and row headers is all the row header elements, right? So now we can now we can figure out the top and the left, right? So let me read the comments over here. What do we have? Sheriff is sharing some of his tips, right? Let's see. Get bounding client rect. Yeah, I think we probably will have to use this to figure out the width and height of the column and the row. We can get the top left width height of each div on focus using bounding rect, and then we move it half rect to keep it centered to the viewport. Yeah, so yeah, as I think, yeah, you're right. But then I'm not sure like what you mean by the on focus, right? So here, we the cell that we are selecting does not necessarily has focus, or it's not an actual input, right? It's a div that we it's a div that you have. It's a div that displays the value, right? Rather than input. So input is in focus when we it turns into an input when we double click into it. And I just realized I can't really type. That's because kind of prevent defaults on over here, right? They prevent the default behavior of the key down on the body, so nothing happens, right? So here I think I need to do it over only here, here, right? Again, if you are that, let's see whether it works now, right? It works. Okay, great. Again, if you are like the person where once you see a lot of things happening again, you're like, I cannot take this. Then okay, fair enough. Let's think how. I mean, I'm not really particular with this, but if I want to refactor this, then how I would write it, right? Probably I would figure that okay, if it's moving some arrows, then it's where I would uh it's where I will probably will have to what's this do updating something, and also like uh yeah, I would do this too, right? So maybe I can refactor this into a function, like say move if cell, and then do something like this. But then I will have to pass in the event. Okay, not that great, but yeah. And then here I would also maybe uh pass in like what's to minus or plus with of the row and the column, right? So it's like the row delta 0, column delta 0, and then I will have to add that in column delta. There's multiple ways of how you would want to write this. Okay, this is just one of the way you could do. Here is move active cell. Let's see, uh, row -1, right? And then probably like you row delta. Okay, like this is probably like how you one way that you could do. 1, and then this is the oops column delta, and here is you have something like this. Okay, this is one way you could maybe refactor it, right? Another way would be maybe you could also keep track of, say, maybe I mean this is more intentional, where you actually keep track of what you are doing, and then you uh yeah, you keep track of what you are doing by naming a function, moving things into a function that has a specific name, like say move active cell. So even when you're here, you haven't looked at the implementation of move active cell, you're like, okay, I know I need to move my cells, right? another way you could also do is maybe since they are kind of similar, maybe it's up to you. Really, it's up to you. You could also have maybe say like maybe I personally I don't really like the way that we are moving all moving the active cell based like passing the event again into over here. Then I can't really know what I can move active cell. I can call this function anywhere else, but now I need to pass in an event. But then which means that this is kind of like tied to um, the the key down event, right? So another way I could do is maybe I could um, maybe say let's should prevent default false, and then everywhere you just everywhere that you want to prevent default, you're saying like okay, um, it's true, and then in the end you say okay, should I prevent default, right? That is another way that you would want to do, um, right? That could be another. See, I think my let me adjust this a bit. I think it's a bit small, but then so that I don't have the spell weekend logo hiding the top part of the code. Anyway, like one way would be prevent default. This could do as well. It's really up to your case, up to the style you want. And let me show you another one that it's possible as well. I mean, since these are all moving arrows, right? So you could also say move all of this as like one case. Uh, Move all of this as one case, and then you only need one like event prevent default, right? um you only need one prevent default, but here again, now move active cell, you have to figure out like where you need to move. Okay, so here I could keep this function move active cell, um but then I can pass in maybe figure out like uh what is the delta that I need to pass in, right? So then maybe I can store it in maybe some sort of object, maybe like key down to delta, right? I'm just trying to show you all the different possibilities that you could write in your code, and really it's up to you on how you want to. There's no absolute right or wrong in how you do things. It's more of like what's next after this, and how does it fits into your entire code, because now we only see four different things, right? If later on you have more, then you realize that okay, this structure may not serve as well, maybe we want to refactor it more a bit, have a different way. So I'm like trying to show you different possible ways that you could write, then you could restructure your way of thinking things, right? So each of these are quite different in terms of the way they are thinking problem, right? You are like, okay, now it's like, okay, all these events are like moving active cells, and then you have a mapping of what is the um, row, sorry, column. No, this is row delta. This is one. Like, it all has a different. Although like look, all of this code works the same, but if you think about it, the code is a way how you structure your way of thinking, right? Over here, you kind of like, okay, now I'm like lumping all the arrow keys into like one thing, and then do a certain into one case, and then we handle it as a group, right? Just now it's like, okay, each key you have separate cases, and each key you can do different things, and then that allows you to maybe arrow up could also not just doing moving active cell, could do something else. Down could be just moving arrow cells. Like each of them are their individual case, and now you're like lumping them as like these are like navigation events. You do this, and then I prevent defaults, right? So there are definitely slight nuances on how you group things and how you write it, refactor it. But overall, I mean, you can argue that they all works the same. But It's more of like how you organize your thoughts. That is the thing that that's the thing that is different, right? It kind of have you kind of have to think about, okay, how you structure, um how yeah, the kind of think it differently when you look at this, just looking at the code right here, right? You are like, okay, this is one group of cases, although it's not multiple cases, but they are in a group, right? Anyway, I think we've diverged a bit. Let's save this and see whether it still works. Okay, everything still works, so we are still good. Now let's come back and see how we, what's this type? I think I'm keep distracted by this, but let's see. What's this? Element has explicit any type because of any can be used in next type. Oh, key. No, I think. Oh no. Arrow up. It doesn't really know that this is. Ah man. I'm gonna say as key off. Off. Right. But it should narrow down and know that these are all the possible values of event.key, right? Or is it like this? Let's see. Key event. It's still any. It doesn't really. Oh, probably because of the event. Is it unknown? Event, no. Key down, keyboard event. This is string. This is narrowed down. Okay, sure. I mean, I guess even with this, it will work as well because it's narrowed down. But before that, it's any, then it does not really even do any narrowing type inference, like type narrowing to figure out like what is a possible value of event.keys. But yeah, anyway, we've solved that. So now no more type errors. Let's focus back on how we can measure and scroll into view, right? So here we have, let's see, we have our row headers and column headers. Okay. Now we need to figure out like where is the position and the width, right? So the position of this, the current. So here I'm gonna have a variable, say the active cell left and active cell top, right? The active cell left and top position, as well as the maybe active cell width and height. Okay. Now, where is our active cell width and height? Well, it's based on the row and column headers, right? So here, if say, for example, I think I can just immediately assign this to row headers, the active cell dot row, right? Active cell width is the it's based on the column, right? Which column it is depends on the width. Column headers, the cell column, get bounding client rect dot width, right? And on the other hand, this is probably the other way around. So switch everything from column to row. Row headers, and then this is probably the height. Okay, and then left and top, right? So the left and top probably will be, we'll have to add up all the previous width and previous height, previous width and previous height. Yeah, previous width and height. So I think we can initialize as 0 for now. And then we would loop through, let's, so maybe we do one at a time. Maybe loop through the cells. Let's see. Let's I equals 0, the most basic looping. I less than the active cell dots, maybe the row. I plus plus. cells. Let me think. Active cell starts with the active cell starts with 0 0 index. Okay, correct. And then here, I think when I go to 4, actually I just need to 1 2 3. Actually I need just to less than. Let me think. If I'm at the row number 2, okay, no, this is column number 3, 0 1 2 3. Then I just need to 0 1 and 2 to get the thing, right? So it's less than a bit confused. 0 1 2 3 to get this column 3, and then 0 1 2 3. Okay, then when I loop through, I need to go 0 1 2, which is here. I think which is correct. Hopefully, I'm not 0 1 2. Not going for the off by 1 kind of situation. Yeah, I think it's correct. 1. Okay, so here, active cell left. When we go through each column, we actually want to add up the width of that column. If cell, no, this is the I. Here, when we go to the row, each row, we are going to update the top. This is the row headers height. Okay, now we have all these values. Let's print those things out as well. Active cell left, active cell top, active cell height, active cell width. Okay, let's see. Save this, and let's see what do we have. Let's refresh. Cannot read properties of undefined reading client bounded ranks. Okay, so probably one of this row or column headers is not defined. Okay, which are they? Let's see. Which line is this, right? So here we are clicking into this, and it's here column headers active cell column get bounding client rank is not defined. That's because let me think. That's because we call scroll. Okay, that's because I believe that's because we apply this action now, right? And then we bind this variable in this. We do the bind probably later on. So over here, I believe that's why we have this, like, I guess you can assume as like a race condition. I believe once everything, once you created the main and you created all the children, then probably the element is ready. But then for now, the action probably runs earlier than the column and row headers, right? I think that's why. Let's see what we can do. I'm assuming that's why. Right, so maybe a better way to figure out whether it is actually true is to look at what we have over here. Right, this is the column, and then this is the column is this one, and then the element is this one. Right, before we go into a wild goose chase, this is when we face something, we figure that this is the line. We form some assumptions on how we know about code, right? So I'm assuming maybe because this is coming from binding and then this is running from actions, then I'm assuming maybe this is my hypothesis. I'm assuming maybe there's a race condition. Your maybe action runs first and then binding and then or bind. So that's why it's undefined. So this is my assumption. But to make sure that before I go in to figure out how to work around this order, I have to make sure that my assumption is correct, right? So to make sure that it's correct, then I can check two things, right? Because this thing is giving me undefined. So I could check what is the value of the columns, and then what is the value of this index, right? Okay, I should do that as well. And then what is the final value? So I print them out. I could have used debugger and set breakpoints and stuff, but I figured that this is way faster to just add maybe a line of console, and immediately I can see the information from the console. And now I'm right where basically now the column, I get this, but the column headers is still an empty array. Okay, that's why it's not giving me any value, right? This is giving undefined. Okay, and you remember later on when we update, when we start to navigate, when we you see that actually this column headers has a list of elements, right? So now it matches with our hypothesis. Now the next thing is, okay, now this is the situation, then what's next? How do we work around, or how do we solve this problem? Right. So this problem arises um when we have uh when we have race conditions between actions and the binding, right? So we want to run this scroll into, so this runs whenever we apply an action to this element, and this run when we do updates, right? So here I'm thinking maybe we don't want to run this so fast. Maybe we can say, just just to prove that this is because of this, um maybe if I do this, say 1 second later, right? Will that work? And if I try to refresh and realize that, hey, it does work. Now, 1 second later, you can see my column headers elements, right? So we wait for a second to actually run this when we apply the action. And that actually works because now the binding has updated the variable, and now and everything kind of works, right? So but do I want this to be our solution? Maybe not quite, right? This feels a bit awkward. Like, I mean, if no one knows why they set timeout, it's not the intention. I would say like the intention is not clear, right? You could use set timeout to do this if like you can't figure out any way, but um, sometimes in code, if you have this hanging like this, later on when you come back, you're like, oh, why I set timeout, and maybe should I remove this? Like, why is that like 1 second, not more than that, right? So one way you could do is leave comments like action runs before binding, have to make some delay, right? That's one way to think the intention that, okay, no, now I know that, okay, that's probably maybe this comment belongs to this line of code, but sometimes comment is not that great because, like sometimes we move things around. Oops, sorry. We move things around, and then we kind of like, okay, we forgot to leave, we maybe refactor this whole thing out somewhere else, and then we forgot to bring our comments along the way, and then you have like hanging comments everywhere in the code. Like, oh shit, what does, again, what does this mean to this, and what this means doing here, right? So I feel like I've been mentioning like the intention of the code a lot, and I guess that's, to me, that's very important because a lot of times, most of the times, doing, not just writing code. I mean, when you write code, it's your mind is clear because you have like one direction of like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I add this code to do this, right? But when you come back again, see, for example, here in our code, besides these functions, we have a lot of other things that I've written earlier on, that probably I've already forget what I was doing when I write those code, right? So I need to make my intent clear so that when I come back, I know what I'm actually intending to do, right? So here, um, there's no change in fundamental how the code works, but you could also like uh, say something like, uh, wait for binding to finish, then do something like this. right? Then in this way, uh, making it like a function name or variable name makes the intent clearer. Like, okay, here I am. Okay, I guess this is why you I mean haven't really looked into how you make this happen. I already know like okay, makes sense. I need to wait this before I uh binding. I can even like make it even longer binding for uh column row headers to finish and then I do something, right? And don't worry about the variable name, right? And if you're set up your project right, you should have minifiers or like you should have minifiers, uglifier like cursors or minify JS, uglify JS to convert this into like one character variable name. So you don't have to worry about the variable names in most cases, right? So unless you have something like property names, then it's a bit hard because you have to make sure that you have to in most cases you wouldn't want to update the class methods or property names, right? So here over here I probably will want to move this to square, right? I need to figure out how do we do this. And it could be the set timeout kind of way of doing things, but I want to try, maybe we could say return maybe a tick function from Svelte. I mean, this tick basically does uh, tells you that this returns a promise that resolves once the update cycle has all the elements have been updated or mounted. Hopefully, I'm not sure about this case, but let's try and see whether it works. Let's refresh, and yeah, it works, right? It does works. I mean, doing you just wait for a tick and then it works. You could have like written this over here, yeah. Um, and you could also do this. I mean, if your let me show you something. If your cursor is great, right? So for example, cursor. If your minifier is amazing, like maybe using cursor or something. Um, oops, sorry, not this repo. It's the try.cursor, right? And if you try to write something like let's see what is missing over here or what is wrong. Okay. Window dot. If you paste this thing in over here, right? If you look at this minified code, um, hopefully I'm right. Yeah, I am right. You see, if I format it nicely, you realize that this is just replaced by tick. Okay. Um, this is replaced by tick, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's more of the intent of like when you read the code, it's clearer that um that this is to do something for you, right? And then your tools will help you to optimize your code. You don't have to worry too much of a thing, and you can move this somewhere else, and you look at this, you're like, okay, what is this doing? And I mean, immediately reading just this part of the code, you're like, okay, I'm clear why I need to wait for something and then scroll it into view, right? So that's what I mean by intention. Um, so could also do import tick as wait for things to finish. Yeah, I think that would work as well. One thing I'm trying to so a slight counter argument for this is that I think it works for this case. But then you have code that looks like, let me do it another level. This, right? Um, like if you're looking at here, it makes sense, right? It does make sense that you're waiting for something to finish and then this. But when you look up, or maybe sometime in future, and you just look at imports and try to organize the imports, and you're looking at this and like, oh, why tick is this thing? Maybe it's not that clear. Maybe it's clear. I mean, it really depends on the component. How big is the component? If like the component itself is just doing one thing and is trying to wait something, then yeah, I guess it is clear. And you don't have to worry again for this kind of names. If you're using Vite rollup webpack, you'll rename it. You will rename this variable, and it's gonna be not like it's gonna be like 1-2 characters long, right? So It really depends the case, right? If the component is just doing one thing, then I guess then in that case, this code over here will be very close to each other. Then it's like kind of close enough that okay, this makes sense, right? But if you have so long code that this long, then maybe looking at it like okay, where is this, and then you have to trace it a bit, a little bit of mental juggle, but it's not that like no or like something. I think it's really up. It's just this is my reasoning of like how I would think about certain things. There's no perfect code. There's no worst code. But as long as it's clear when you read it, when you come back, and then then yeah, the most important is you can come back and read, because the most of the time it's like okay, I'm come back adding new things and trying to figure out what is existing things, and as you read through code, hopefully it's clearer to you when you're looking at them, right? That's my personal take on this. So here, I able to get through all this. Let's come back again and let's take a look at what I have now: active cell, left, right, top, and width. Now I need to figure out whether, say for example, if this is 650, like if I look at the container and the current cell, active cell, the scroll top is 0 plus the height. Sorry, the scroll left 0 plus the width is 696. But now our active cell left is at 650. Is it correct? Let me see. Active cell left is 0. This is 50. Okay, now if I go more, then my active cell left is at 650, and then my width is 696. It's still in the view, but I can't really see it now. As that's because I didn't take into account of the row and the column headers, their own width and height. Okay, I need to add them in as well. So the default left is actually the one of the row headers. Maybe I just take the first one, the row headers width, row 0, row headers width. And then here I need to add the one of the column headers, get bounding client rect height. Right. Okay. Now by default, the active cell left is already offset by 50-50. Okay, because this is there's certain height and certain width, 50 and 20. Okay, and then if I move here, then my active cell left is already 700, but my scroll width is my width is 696. So I need to push it in. By how much? I guess it depends. So I think I just want to show the cell right on the edge with maybe a little margin. So maybe I'm gonna say left, the right I think like the X margin, right? Left or right, the margin. Maybe I'm just gonna say 50, Y margin 50, right? Let's see. X margin, Y margin. No, that's not actually right. Because on the left, on the right and on the bottom, the margin can be 50 and 50. But on the left but on the left side or on the top, you need to account with the width and the height of the row, right? So if you are in here, hold on, let's see. If you are in here, you need to offset or know that you need to be around somewhere around here. You have to plus the width of this header plus maybe 50 over here, right? So the left, right margin, top margin is a bit different. Left margin top margin, right margin, and bottom margin. A bit different. Um, so here I have a group of variables. You could, it's really up to you. You could want to be like have a group of variables, or you could want to have maybe a variable that is like by itself is it looks like a group, right? Something like this. Um, it's really up to you. Again, this is more of like your intention of like how you want to um to access this thing, right? One thing I would probably argue, but it's more of like a micro optimization, is that when you access margin dot something over here, dot left, the if this variable is being passed to a lot of functions, then your cursor, your minifier may not replace this thing. So your output code may look something like this, because the property name of the object is important, right? Because if you pass around, if you change one place and didn't change it in the other place and it's inconsistent, then you are not getting the right property value, right? So you only change the variable name. So if you have a long property name over here, then probably it's gonna stays in your final code, right? But really you need to look at it. If you're really particular about the size, then probably you have to look at profile and stuff like that. But anyway, left is, as I say, I probably would need row headers width plus 50, right? And then this one plus the top probably plus 50. Okay, this is the margin that we need to keep. Now we need to check whether our element is within the range. So say for example, if I am, so I'm gonna first find the active cell. I'm gonna look at the left side first. Left side, active cell left. Here if I am, say here if my active cell left is less than the active cell left is the scroll position, right? Let's see, what's the scroll position right now? The scroll left, eh? Scroll left is a value, right? Scroll left. So my active cell left is if it's less than the scroll left. This is this one. Scroll left. My plus the left margin, right? Then I need to move it to the right, right? I need to say, okay, maybe I have two new variable, the new scroll x and let's new scroll y. Okay, so my new scroll x will have to be equals to the new position, right? The probably will have to here, right? Push it to the left. Let's see whether that works, right? So here probably I'm gonna update container scroll left equals to new scroll x. I think if this thing is something, then we're gonna change this. Not undefined. Let's see whether that works. So here, I'm focusing over here. If I try to move my cell, okay, it's not working. So I need to probably print out my new scroll x. Let's see. Okay, so here, if I move here, my new scroll x should be 200, right? Should be this value. And I need to update my container scroll left to this new value. and and it does not, and it's not scrolling. Why? Huh? Isn't this okay? Maybe I need to scroll to oh, scroll options again. Left and top. Okay, left is the new scroll X. If this um move should scroll to 200, right? But it's not. Why? Uh, container. Yeah, we are right. Scroll. Or am I already in 200? Where's my cursor? My cursor is okay. Let's put my cursor here. Let's scroll it away and let's move. Scroll to 588. But I'm not scrolling. Huh. Interesting. Inspect element. Inspect. No, wait. 588. Scroll. No. Um, no. So the new scroll position, I think is wrong. Is the new scroll position is not right. The new scroll position should be my should be the active cell left minus some margin, right? So you want to scroll to the left side, like to the left side of the place, and even more left, right? So you might you minus off the margin left. Let's see. If I come over here, if I scroll, and if I navigate, yeah, it should um, give some margin over here, right? I think 50 is a bit much. Gonna be all of them. I just keep maybe 10 or like 20. Right. So here, if I do this, if I try to uh, move to the bottom, then it's like here, right? This plus something. 15. I think you get negative 15. So this is the most you can do. But if I come over here and I scroll and I move down, then at like 15 margin over here. So this is just scrolling left, right? So here, if I try to do this, if I move, then I scroll the left, right? So I need to handle all cases left, right, top, bottom, right? So kind of a bit left, right, top, bottom. Here, okay, so here the left, if it's greater than the scroll left minus of some margin, scroll. I think just don't care about margin first. Scroll left, left smaller than the margin. No, I think as long as the right side is across the scroll left position plus the container width, the client width, then I would plus the its own active cell width. There's a lot of maths over here. I'm a bit confused already. So the left position. So this is the left side plus the width. So here is your cell. This is your cell, okay? And then if it's scrolling past the right border, which maybe the border is here. So how do you know right border is the scroll position plus the width is the right border? If it's past it, then we need to scroll to a position where because the scroll position is calculated over here on the left side, right? So this place should be this plus the width should be uh, should be like should be more than the should be at a position where this plus width plus a margin, right? So it's like the so do some math first, right? So the container scroll this thing this plus the width, which is the right border, should equals to the active cell plus some width plus some margin dot right. Okay, this should be the scroll position. Right now we're gonna move minus off this on both sides. So this is minus off over here. Then you get this thing, right? So this would be our new scroll X. Okay. Let me keep this 2 first. Let's see whether it works. Right. So here, if I keep moving to the right, then you see that I am scrolling past right over here. Right. So here, and this one, we'll take look at it later on. Okay. But anyway, I mean, it works. It works on the left as well. Well done. Let's just duplicate this on the top and the bottom. Right, so the top side, we look at the active cell top with so the scroll position, we look at the top, right? I think copy this should be correct. Just translate everything X to Y. This is the top. This is the top. And for bottom, should be copying this one. We translate everything left to top, width to like the height, and the X to Y. That should be correct. Okay, so here, can do container scroll to scroll X, and top is the new scroll Y. Okay, so probably we also want to keep the original. So since we are doing this, we call scroll to no matter whether we are X or Y. Then maybe we should provide some default value so that if we haven't set a value in one of these if condition, you can still scroll correctly. So here I can pass in, say, the scroll left and the top as the initial value. Right over here, the other way around. Okay, save this, and then I think we are good. So if I go down, then I keep scrolling down, keep right, scrolling right, going up, scrolling up, and going back here, scrolling this. Okay, and we are good. So here, one thing we probably would need to check is that one thing we could do to make it nicer is that maybe we can scroll. See, I remember there's a function where you can scroll to scroll by, right? Scroll to, scroll by. Okay, scroll by and scroll to. I think we can do offset by that as well, but anyway, it's okay. I think our scroll is good. I think the behavior is something that I was looking for. Behavior, right? Smooth, right? So here I can come over here and say behavior is smooth. And if I save this and I try to scroll, if I try to move, then it's like it slowly scroll into view, right? I don't have to worry. It's not that jagged where you click on the mouse, click on the key, and then immediately jumps to the next place, right? It has this a bit smooth scrolling kind of thing. But you notice that once I hit the end, I get an error, and then I'm no longer able to do anything, right? Because here, we run to this error where we can't get bounding clan rect of something of undefined. I thought we have solved this, right? So if you look into, I'm not sure you have any idea what's happening, but I think I have, but let's try and hypothesize and try and figure it out, right? So here, if you go into this place, is this place again? So here, if you now we in the previous approach we console log and figure things out. And over here, I think what I want to do is I do set breakpoints. and see the value, right? We try to do different things so that I guess we can learn different ways of debugging, right? So here, if you move every time, you have to check the, let's see, you can see it clearly. You can see what's the active cell, what is the active cell headers, right? This is not in the local scope, it's in the instance closure or module scope. No, in the where's the column headers? I'm not sure why it's not showing, why it's not opening up. But if you can hover on over here and can see the value for each of them, and then you can inspect and then step through and then see everything works fine. Okay, nothing breaks, right? So if I keep doing this, I will have to keep breaking breakpoints and then figure out, right? One way you could only set the breakpoints when you hit a potential problem, right? Potentially, we know that this is going to be undefined, and that's where our problem is. So here you can right click and edit this breakpoint and actually say, so this is shows conditional breakpoint. Right? You can change this to something else, but this is what we want. We want the breakpoint to be conditional, to be when this is undefined. Okay, now it looks different. It's a question mark with an orange color in your Chrome DevTools, and you try to move around. There's nothing wrong, and only when you hit, uh, am I hitting something? No. Oh shit! I think the error is coming from here instead. Let me refresh this again. Let's go all the way to the right, and it hits this right now. You hit this place where this is undefined, and you get an error, and then you look at all the values. You can actually watch to check certain things, like say active cell with this. This is not value yet, but you can look at active cell and see what's the value. You can edit over here. You can look at it over here in the scope, and you realize that, oh, okay, column 26, row is 8. Does it make sense? Not sure. If I check the column headers, there's 26 elements, right? And things are in zero index. So when you hit 25, when you keep going to the right, you one day hit the place where you go to the cell beyond this number of columns that we have, right? That's why we can't find the headers, and then you get the error. So sometimes the error is here, but it does not really comes from here, right? This problem is when we try to do navigation, we need to make sure that we also do not move beyond this the position of or the range of our cell, right? So here, what the fix should be is that maybe we should say active cell dot row should be bounded by 0 to the number of rows that we have, right? Right. So here, meaning if I want to, so if I'm trying to get the new value, say the row, it should be row plus the row delta, right? But this thing should not go a maximum of the number of rows, meaning we can do like the minimum of this two, right? So if I go beyond this, if I go more than number of rows, I should get the minimum, which is the number of rows. But if this is less than number of rows, then this is less, right? This is the minimum one, so I'm gonna get this value instead. And I'm gonna do the same thing for bounding it with 0 as well. So this is 0 like this, okay? And I'm gonna do the same thing for the column as well. So here, I'm gonna add this, and then I'm gonna add this too. Number of columns. Okay, so now if I save this, I'm gonna come back again, and hopefully if I refresh this page, if I try to move, I don't move past 0, right? And I can go left and right all the way. Hold on, I triggered this again. Let's see. Okay. Errors again, right? Um, yeah. Well, the number of cells that we have is 26, but we can't go more than 25, right? Because we are in zero index. So this one has to -1. So it's -1. Save this. Let's come back again, refresh. Here it is. Let's scroll away to Z, and we move left and right. Right, it does not hit, right? If you go all the way down, it does not hit. Okay, that's great. So if I come up, it scrolls into view, or the left scrolls into a view, um, and yeah, it's just nice. So one thing I would want to do, if here next, is that, I mean, we've managed to do some basic navigation, right? Left, right, up, down. Then if you remember that if you use Google Sheets, right, one thing you could do also is to go all the way to the right, all the way to the left, all the way to the down, bottom or top, by holding on to the control or command key. So now we come back over here and look and stare at, sorry, I think we didn't do this. Should do this. Uh, yeah, but anyway, we'll come back to that. We look at this over here, see how we can change that, right? So here, um, move active cell. Over here, if you come over here and see, look at the key again, event.key, or event again, and see what is a thing that we can use when we hit on command key or control key, right? And here, if you look at the meta key or the control key, depends on um, depends on your operating system, right? In Windows is a control key, on Mac is a meta key, right? Um, in this case, you would have this to be true, or this one, and then which means you are holding on to the control key when you're pressing on the arrow up and down, right? So I can say here is that control press equals to event dot meta key, or the events dot control key, right? I think so. I think Windows will get the control key because that's what you used to, right? And then, so a more correct implementation would be maybe checking. I'm not sure you can check the operating system and then use meta and control key. If you can't, I don't think you can. I'm not sure how you can do it without maybe looking at user agent and something like that, which is frowned upon by browsers because they want to protect the privacy of the users. So maybe you can just do this and then look at control press, and then you want to move the active cell all the way down, right? And then realize that, oh, this thing, um, this moves cell by a delta, right? But then now you want to move all the way down, right? Maybe you can calculate what's all the way down minus the current cell, which is the delta, and then you pass it in. But hey, that's a bit too much, I think. I guess now maybe this will have to change a bit in terms of the implementation on like the active cell. When we move, maybe we're just gonna move, we can specify the actual row and column instead of the delta, right? Um, so you could do that over here. Let's see. Uh, so here, instead of um, maybe new, uh, let's new row equals to the active cell row plus this thing, um, plus this thing. If it's control press, then you have to go all the way down, right? Let's see. If it's If it's new row, if it's control press, then you are going to figure out which direction you are going, right? And um, let's see. I think we can pass this um, maybe as an option, like say to the n or to n, right? To the n, whether we have control press, whether the control is pressed, we want to go all the way to the n. Uh, all the way. Okay. So here we have our options called all the way. Um, okay. Yeah. So initially I was thinking to, based on this, we're gonna calculate the left. We calculate whether we should pass in the width, the full width of the height, and then I realized that hey, I also need to know which direction, right? So here the rho and delta is more of like direction rather than the actual um, delta itself, right? So here I probably will have slowly rename this. I could, I can do this uh, over here because all these are written right next to each other. So when I should have designed this better by thinking about the names and stuff, because once you decided this is the API, the variable name, then it's a bit hard to change it uh, globally if you are sharing this code to everywhere or everyone is calling this code, right? But I still have the luxury of doing this and replace all of them to a variable name that makes more sense in our case, right? Which is this is the direction on a row and a column. And here we know we need to go all the way, right? So here, that's so if it's all the way, then it's the story is a bit different, right? So um, else, so if it's all the way, then the active cell row will depends on which direction we are going, right? So if it's the row direction, um, if it's if the row direction is negative, then we need to go all the way to the left. And this the right direction, which is 1, then we're going to go all the way to the right, which is the number of columns minus 1. Wait, no, minus number of rows minus 1. And if it's here, if it's going column wise, then it depends on the column direction. If it's row direction, if it's if it's -1, you go to the left. If this is if this is the negative, if this is 1, then you go to this place. If else, you go to just stay put row. And maybe a lot of people does not like this because it's a bit hard to read when you have ternaries with ternaries, like nested ternaries. Feels a bit confusing. You are right. When I write this, when you are like following along the flow, when you write it, it feels natural to you. You just add one more conditions. But if you come back and read, you're like, ah, man, what is happening? Which condition do what, right? So um, again, you should write code the way you would want to read it and read it easily. Because if you do conditions like this, I can assure you, like say if it's sorry, if row direction is -1, you do this, and else if row direction is 1, you do something else. Um, 0. This is the number of rows -1. I mean, if you write code like this, if conditions, I can assure you that when you use cursor and minifier, it converts into ternary operations because it saves space, right? You don't have to write the if, it saves space. So leave that to the tools to do that for you. You don't have to write something that you think it saves space because the tool will do that for you. You write things that it's easy for you to read and easy for you to understand. Right? So here I gonna column direction equals to -1, and I have the cell dot column equals to 0, and else if column direction equals to 1, and active cell dot column equals to number of columns minus 1. Okay, I'll save this. Let's see. Right here, I move my arrow up and down. If I hit, and if I hold on to my control key, then I can go all the way to the right or the left, all the way to up to the down to the bottom, and I'm quite happy because it scrolls. And yeah, it just feels so cool that it just works. Now, yay! Okay, now, yeah, now we have our navigation and move things around. Um, I've mentioned that we should also look into how we can use the scroll into view um, um, uh, instead, right? Then maybe we don't have to do the all the calculation that we have seen so far, right? So here, let me just quickly show how that would work as well. If I comment out everything, let me just keep the scroll into view. We need to, when you say scroll into view, you need to pass in uh, I think you need to pass in the, no, you need to call it on the element that you want to scroll into the view. Okay, so you need to find this element first. To find this element, probably look at a cell. In this cell, you have to find this cell element, right? We've done this with our column header. We add this, we bind this as element, and then we export that element. Okay, and then we come over here and we bind this element to um, to an object, right? So here um, we can do it to a we need to create a variable, right? So here const cells equals to array. So here um, I use like a one level array because if I do two, then maybe this might be undefined. We have to declare it ahead of time. So I'm a bit lazy. I'm just do one first. Here I can add the what's this thing? Can make it like an object where I'm saying the where the key is the column value with the row value, okay? Something like this. Okay, and then to access it, I can come over here and then I can say uh, cells, this one. And then this is our active cell dot column, active cell row dot scroll. This will be our element, and then we're gonna scroll into view, right? Yeah, let's just ignore um, the the type definition, the type error first. I mean, this gives you the element, right? So I'm gonna say cell element equals this, and then cell element to scroll into the view, right? And then right, hold on, where's my wait? Where am I? Okay, so if I let me refresh this. If I click onto this thing, it scrolls into view, but you see that it scrolls so fast that, say for example, I'm clicking D10, it scrolls so fast that it goes over here into view. So I can't really control where it scroll, how it scrolls into the view, but I can control the behavior. Say for example, behavior. Wait, hold on. What's the option? No, okay. This is the HTML element. And now I have my tab definition. This one, I can say the behavior and like the scroll into view options, right? So I can play along with that. So behavior, and maybe I can get maybe like smooth, like how we get just now. And then the block, what is a block? I'm not really sure, right? Scroll into view, BN. This gives you a block. Oh, okay, an inline. Okay, so how do I align the left and the right, right? So here I can scroll into scroll into the starting position, right? That's why you see that as I scroll, it scroll to the top and left of the top position of the container, right? So here, what I could uh, change that is that maybe block is in the center. If I save, if I and then inline is also the center. And if I click on, it will always scroll it into the center, right? Or I can go to the nearest. So hold on. So it's like if I try to, I didn't save yet. Let me keep center. So if I try to move, it keeps scrolling into the center. That could be what I would want, right? But it's a bit annoying when you go and you were like all the way to the center, right? I don't have to go all the way to the center. I can have nearest, which is that if it's out of the view, I try to scroll to the nearest. It does not move usually, but if I go all the way down, um, if I scroll, it will try to go to the nearest end, right? It's either start or the end, but it's like the nearest side of things. But then I have to handle the scroll offsets on the table so that it add like some scroll offsets to my table so that it will scroll margin, I think, or padding, so that I don't have to eat up in a case like this, right? Um, but I don't have full control of the margin and stuff, or like when I want to scroll. So I think this one is useful when you just want to scroll into view and you don't have to do a lot of calculations. But I guess let's do some calculations, not undo all things we have, and we have more fine grained control of how much margin and when you want to scroll things, and yeah, scroll until where, right? So I'm just keep this, and I don't need the cells. I don't need this. Let me remove this. It's nice to delete things that I don't need. I don't need element. Don't need this. Just realize that I don't even need value, because value was something that we have when we are trying to show each cell what the value is. But now we don't need this as well. Now we can quickly scroll things now, which is great. Just want to add one more thing quickly that we can. How do we? I think we have done a lot today, right? Keyboard navigation, up and down, left and right. That's amazing. So next thing we're gonna probably explore next week, next Svelte weekend, would be probably look at um, how we could. Um, I think I was looking at. I think last week I mentioned that I can also um, uh, change my range selected cell, or look preview my formulas on top of here. Basically, a lot of things on the top bar. We right now it looks ugly, right? Right now it has nothing on the top side, so maybe we should add something on the top to make it looks and feel like a spreadsheet, right? A real Google Sheet clone, not just working on a cell, but also we would have start to build what we have on the top, and then slowly add this kind of drop down menu and add features one by one, like how you can style things, and stuff like that, right? So I mean, we probably can't do so much, but next week probably we'll start building up the top to make it looks more nicer, and then we come back and then add different features here and there, right? So here what we have is managed to do is to keyboard navigation up, down, left, right, and all the way up and down, left and right. So that's it for today, for this week. And I shall see you in the next Svelte weekend. So bye bye.